Do you notice anything different?
Hey everybody, welcome back, and thank you for joining me this week for another video. Behind me is our 1947 John Deere Model B, and I've positioned myself, I'm sitting down right now on this little stool, and I've positioned myself here very strategically so that you cannot see the front of the tractor. A little bit of suspense, and if I move the camera over, boom, there it is. We are giving this tractor a facelift. We are taking off the narrow front end with the Roll-O-Matic, and we are putting on a wide front end.
So my dad is actually the one who's done all of the work on this. I told him that I wanted to come up and help him, but it was a rainy day, and so he pulled this in here and he just kind of got to work. But it's really not too difficult to switch out a front end on the John Deere like this. To put a wide front end on it, you do need what's called a split pedestal, and it's this front section right here, the front pedestal of the tractor that comes down, but you can see has a seam right here, and so this front cast pedestal right here stops right here, and then this whole front end, wide front end, and this big huge bracket that kind of lets it teeter-totter or pivot back and forth, it just bolts up onto here. I think there's 4 or 6 bolts. I don't know. 1, 2, 3. Looks like just 4 bolts that bolt this straight up in here, and then there's steering arm right here that attaches to a round metal plate that's on the bottom of that split pedestal. And if you want a wide front end, you have to have a split pedestal. The other thing, also, if you have a single front tire tractor, like my AN had, you also need a split pedestal for that. As opposed to, this is your standard front pedestal on a row crop John Deere, where the whole front cast piece just kind of tapers down to this single, basically single front end. Oh man. So this is the Roll-O-Matic front end that John Deere had. It's a pretty ingenious idea. You've got your wheels on here, and you can see that these kind of go up and down, so that as you're going through a field, if this right-hand wheel hits a bump, as it goes up 1 inch, it forces the left-hand wheel down 1 inch. So it's supposed to reduce kind of front-end bounce of the tractor as it's going through a bumpy field. And it's a pretty cool design. I think it's kind of cool. I actually, in previous videos, I'll put a link to it here. But in other videos, I put a Roll-O-Matic front end just like this on my John Deere Model A. So that's your typical front end. And so now it's exciting to have this wide front end back. What I'm going to do now is I asked my dad, since I wasn't able to come up and help him, I asked him to take some footage of him doing the work, and he actually did a pretty good job. Got out his camera and made a video of kind of what he had going on. So I'll switch over to that, and you can see what he went through and kind of some of the challenges that he had to face to get this to where it is right now.
Well, it's raining outside and it's cold, and so I decided to just come in my shop and do a project that I've wanted to do for a couple weeks now, but I've been busy outside. That project has to do with my little John Deere B that I overhauled here about a year ago. And as you can see, it's a close front end. And I sold a John Deere B to a guy who strongly requested that I sell it to him because it was his as a kid, and he had finally found it here at my place. But it was a wide front end. In the interim, since I sold that one to him and bought this one, I wanted a wide front end. And I found one on an old John Deere B about 45 miles from here. The guy had died, and his children wanted to scrap out. He had about 11 or 12 tractors. So I got this wide front end here. I bought the whole tractor and then sold everything but the front end to a friend. And I kept the front end, so it cost me $250. Now, I just took this one off. I just pulled it away, as you can see here. And I'm gonna crank it up a little bit so I can get it out of here. And then I'll proceed to bring the other one over. It's not going to be an easy thing because I'm going to try and do it without removing the radiator. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 6 bolts right underneath here. And I was able to get them off with the close front end, but that wide front end has some bracing in the way. So I'm going to try it, and I'll report back a little later as to how it's going. Well, a couple hours has gone by, and the main problem I had is that in this wide front end, one of the stud bolts was broke off right down here. The one that goes right in there. No, the one right up at the top here. No, it was the one on the bottom. It had been busted off, and I had to drill it out and then re-thread it. That took some time, but I got it done. And now I've got it hoisted up here, and it's in there, but I haven't put any nuts on it yet. It's just, I've got to tighten it down, and I'm going to do that right now. But there's the old one, the old close front end. It's still in real good shape. I'm going to give it to my buddy to put on that. That's the $250 John Deere B that he's going to try and free up. But now I'm going to put things together, and I'll have a wide front end again on my little John Deere B.
So right now we're actually at kind of a stopping point waiting for parts. This front spindle was actually in horrible shape. I don't know if you can see how pitted it was, just so corroded down in here. In talking to my dad, he had a heck of a time pounding the race. He went to pull this bearing, this inboard bearing off, and it just broke to pieces. And then to get the race off, he said he had to weld to it and heat it, and he was finally able to break it free. But I guess the race actually sits right here, not up here. This is where a big felt washer sits, I think. But you can still see how pitted it is. But he was able to get the race off of the spindle right here without damaging it. And now we're just waiting for those new bearings to be delivered. Here is the outer bearing. And I don't know, let's see, let me go away from wide angle. And let me turn my light on. Okay, now hopefully you can see this is the quote-unquote good bearing, but you can just see, look how pitted these rollers are. I mean, just horrible shape. Just very rusted. This bearing is completely shot. So we got 2 new bearings coming, and once those come, then we will be able to put these front tires back on. These are the wheels that were on it, and if you can see, I think these are still John Deere rims. They are concave. You know, that wheel center dish, it's dished inward, if you can see that. And I think a lot of BWs had this style of rim on the front of it. I'm not exactly sure what the John Deere part number is for these rims. I'll see if I can look it up and paste it down along the bottom of the screen. But neither myself nor my dad, neither of us really like this style of concave rim. We like these John Deere, these are the 1268R rims, I think. That's what it is. Where is the part number on this? Yeah, it's a John Deere 1268R. And both of us just really like the look of this rim. It doesn't have any windows around it. And if you look, it's very slightly dished outward, so it's convex. And we, both of us, like I said, both of us prefer the appearance of this rim over these ones, which I think actually might be the correct ones for a BW. Anyway, we are not going to use these rims. We're going to stick with these 1268Rs. So I think that'll look really nice. Well, it's the day after Thanksgiving. It is kind of chilly outside. It's in the 20s. But let's go inside the shop and see what we got going on. My dad is over here making a fire, getting things warm. And this is his source of fuel. Where do you get it from? A pallet company?
Yeah, this pallet company, and they just give me the wood and I pick it up.
So over here we have the little B all put back together. The front bearings came in. My dad put those back on. Did that last week. And here the tractor sits today. I think those bearings, he said they cost about $100, but it's nice to know that everything up here in the front is in good shape. We ended up using these 1268R rims. And they fit on there nicely. And the whole tractor, there's how she sits. Yesterday, kind of during Thanksgiving, then my dad came out here, wired up the front lights and the rear light, and the rear light. Everything seems to work, so I'm going to try to help him button this up, and then we'll put these front grill pieces on as well. And yeah, and then maybe we'll go out and test out the front end, see how it works. We took that bracket off the front. It looked like it was a cultivator bracket or something. So now just touching up everything and now it's done. Got it all put back together. Let's start it up and go for a quick little ride. It's icy up there. Made it across the ice. flip it around. Let's go back. I want to go down the lane and see if the front wheels wobble. Doesn't wobble at all. It's pretty tight too. We'll try it going up and over the river. See how the engine does. No problems. The B is just a fun little tractor. I mean, lately I've been spending most of my time driving those big diesel tractors as we've been plowing over the last couple of weeks. It's kind of fun to drive such a small, nimble little tractor. Okay, let's go up the big hill. Go down in here. Let's go back to third. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys next week with another video.